years ago at the age of 22 years old. There's no one can teach you how to deal with grief until you actually deal with grief many times. It's like going for Hajj. You read all about the books of Hajj and the fiqh of Hajj, and when you finally go for Hajj, like, oh my God, this is really different, right? So definitely there needs to be a certain setup of what I would call an insurance policy. In America, we have insurance on everything. We have insurance on our homes. People have insurance on cars. We have no choice. We live in a country which makes it mandatory. Health insurance, I'm not sure how it is in Malaysia. But anything which provides any value, they make us have insurance on it because it brings value to our life. And the fear of losing it is mitigated by the fact that we have insurance. And that insurance serves as a form of, it'll be okay. If anything happens to our house, the basement gets flooded, something happens to our car, the insurance company will cover it. So similarly, the most valuable thing that we have in our life is deen. And we want to make sure that there's an insurance policy for our deen. That if something happens to us or our family members, the grief and the difficulty shouldn't be so overwhelming that our deen gets affected in a negative way. And it's very natural that it will get affected if we don't have an insurance policy. And that insurance policy is to build up a stronger relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before something happens. Not when it happens, before it actually takes place. Where am I with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala today? If something was to happen to me or my family or my children, with the level of deen that I have today, would I be able to respond? And the reality of life is if we're not progressing, we're regressing. The greatest cause of loss is complacency and stagnancy. If we're complacent, we're actually regressing, we're not progressing. So building up a strong insurance policy for dealing with difficulties means we build up our iman by doing more a'mal. And secondly, there's a great book written by Imam Suyuti rahimahullah. It's actually translated in English, which someone gifted this book to myself and my brothers after my brother left this world, which talks about how to console those who have lost loved ones and how they should be consoled. And within the book, there's many tips and practical tips that we can take. But amongst them is number one, the Prophet whenever he dealt with difficulty, that has حَزَمَهُ أَمْرٌ فَزِعَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. He would always refer back to prayer, tahajjud, munajat billah. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says the best way to build up a broken heart is to learn how to speak to Allah. Just converse with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes speaking to your loved one simply builds more love within you. Speaking to Allah about what we're going through will allow us to feel more comfortable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't want to lengthen this discussion per se, but I think a lot of times we think being able to grieve with loss means that we'll be back in the same space. That's not necessary. But we're able to deal with life. How Shaykh was saying, we accept the qadr and we move forward and we look forward to being reunited with our loved ones in the akhirah. Wallahu a'lam. I'll start this next question with Dr. Bilal.